good for a diabetic is exercise in the sunshine. I realize we haven't seen any sunshine for 3 days now. And I know in a couple of months there's not going to be a whole lot of sunshine out there. But whenever the sun shines, you need to get the exercise. At Uchee, which is the place I work, we've had 2 type 1 diabetics. Not as patients, we've had plenty of those, but these were staff children. Type 1 diabetics, that means no insulin. The one was a young woman. She was very, very short. She was very, very thin. She had sores all over her body. She was totally blind, and she died at about 34 years of age. I remember I was at a store one time, and I was walking up the aisle with my cart, and a couple of my friends from the same place I work were coming down, and they saw me, and they started yelling, "This isn't for us! This isn't for us!" They had large 2-liter bottles of Sprite, a soda. This girl would send people to get sugared sodas because that was her favorite drink. And she died at 34 years of age. The other young man, about my size, didn't even wear glasses. He was very, very healthy, and he was using just a small amount of insulin in his body, even though he was a type 1, because he learned how to control it. Sunshine can help glucose into the cells without insulin. Exercise can do the same. Diet can do the same. If a person is diabetic, insulin does not work when you are dehydrated. And so you've got to drink plenty of water. All of us have to drink plenty of water. That's for every disease I've talked about. Are there any treatments for diabetes? Well, basically, anything I've said that we're doing wrong, just correct that. But here's the first thing. You want to know what we can eat? We eat high fiber diets. I see tomatoes, I see potatoes, I see onions, I see grapes, I see garlic down here. All kinds of high fiber foods. Second thing you can do, and all of our patients in my sanitarium get beans every single meal. Why? Because beans are very high in fiber. And fiber slowly releases glucose into the bloodstream so the body's better able to put it into the cells. Every single meal. If they eat 3 meals a day, they're going to be eating beans 3 meals a day. For a type 2 diabetic, we recommend a 2-day plan. Matter of fact, do you know the first thing we do with a diabetic patient where I work? We put them on a fast. No food for about 5 days. Now most people think, oh, you got to feed a diabetic. No, a type 1. Yes, you got to feed a type 1. A type 2, no. What we're trying to do is get their glucose down to a normal range. And usually within 3 to 5 days, it's normal. Then we start them on a green diet. That means lots of salads. And then after about a week, we start them on legumes. After another week, we start them on other types of food, some whole grains, which are very nice for a diabetic, as long as they are whole grains, lots of fiber, slowly releasing the glucose into the body. That's what you can eat. You just name the fruit, the vegetable, the whole grains, the nut, or the seed. That's what we can eat. I just went to the to a shopping center today, or the mall, and went through the store, and man, you got lots of food here. Really a little expensive, but you're used to that. But dying may not be very expensive, but it's very inconvenient. I recommend we go to that diet. How much fiber is in animal products? No, there's no fiber in an animal product. Now, we like the animal products, but all of this is going to be very bad for our system. We need to stay away from refined carbohydrates. And it amazes me. I go to Japan every year, and while I'm there, it is rice harvest season. They grow a lot of rice in Japan. And they got this machine that goes through the field, and they see all this beautiful rice going into the hopper, and then the farmer takes bags of the rice, and he goes to a little kiosk. This is this little building. He walks inside, he dumps the rice into this container, puts the bag underneath, puts some money in the machine, pushes a button, fills up the bag, and goes home. What did he just do? What did he do? He just took all the fiber off of his rice, because this is what they're used to eating. I like whole grain rice. We need to stay away from white bread, white pastas, all kinds of white things. These are poisonous for the body. We need to eat a total vegetarian diet. Now, celery, if you have it here, extremely good for high blood pressure. It's very nice. The beans, very good for the diabetes. The broccoli, one of the best anti-cancer foods you're going to find, as are the tomatoes, high in a phytochemical called lycopene. And so we eat those things. Diabetes, stay away from cigarette smoke, because it paralyzes the blood vessels. You already have a hard time with your circulation. Tobacco smoke is only going to make it worse and give you a bigger problem. Another thing is, don't get mad. That's pretty hard to do sometimes. What do you think the problem is with getting mad? When you get mad, you are in a stress response. Remember my story about the dog? And I gave the Bible verse to the dog? When you get mad or scared, your body goes into the sympathetic nervous system response. Your adrenals squeeze adrenaline, and the adrenaline releases all of your stored glucose in your body. So if you're diabetic and you get upset, now you got so much glucose in your body, you don't know what to do with yourself. We need to try to find ways to keep from getting upset. I've been talking about that for a long time because it's sometimes sort of hard to do. Now, here's the question. Do these lifestyle changes really help? Two patients. We're going to look at two patients right here that we had at Uchee Pines. The first one was a type 2 diabetic. They weighed 121 kilograms. This was a young man, 121 kilograms. He was in bad shape. He was taking 175 units of insulin every single day. This was a type 2. He still needed to take insulin. But even with all of this insulin, his glucose stayed very, very high. What should your glucose be? Does anyone know? Has anyone ever had your blood test and the doctors tell you your glucose needs to be about here? Well, I'll tell you, between 70 and 90 is where your glucose should be. His was between 350 and 400. He had had 2 heart attacks. He had hyperlipidemia. He had high blood fats. He had hypertension to the point where he was on blood pressure medications and his kidneys were failing him. He had a very bad outlook here. So he comes to Uchee Pines. We put him immediately on a lifestyle change. 5 days later, he was taking 80 to 120 units of insulin. Is that what that says? I never can tell. No, his glucose was there. He had lost 4.5 kilos, and his insulin was down to 130 units of insulin a day. After 2 weeks, he had lost 7.2 kilograms, and he was taking 58 units of insulin every day. That's just 2 weeks. After 1 month, he was off of all insulin. That's pretty amazing. He had lost 11.3 kilograms. He was off of all blood pressure medications. And after the end of 3 months, he was off of all medications, lost 27 kilograms, normal blood pressure, normal cholesterol, and normal kidney function. Basically, he was healed of his diabetes. Now, here's the key. You got to stay on the program. You can't go back, oh, I'm okay now. I'm going to go back to eating the same old way, because it will come back with a vengeance. I've seen it over and over again that when people go off of their lifestyle, the bad stuff comes back very, very quickly. The second patient, He was a type 1 diabetic, 22 years old. He also was a little bit overweight, 86 kilos. He was on 70 units of insulin a day, but even with that, his glucose was up and down like a roller coaster. He could not control his glucose. After 2 weeks, 56 units of insulin, his glucose was stable, and he lost 5.8 kilos of weight. After 1 month, he was down to 32 units of insulin. 32 units of insulin is just about as low as you can go if you have type 1 diabetes. His glucose was normal, and he lost 10.4 kilograms. That's what this program can do. It can do it for everybody, and you don't have to go to some fancy place to do it. You can do it right there in your home. I have a little Bible verse here. It says, "You are bought with a price, therefore glorify God with your body," which doesn't belong to you. It belongs to God. So anyway, that's my little program on diabetes. There are other types of diabetes, gestational diabetes, but the two main ones are type 1 and type 2. That's why we talked about those. Any questions about diabetes or anything else we've talked about, quite frankly?
What about yeast in the bread?
What about what?